This is Super Yacht News with Sisman.
Hi, welcome back to the channel. Okay, on my left hand side here you will see a picture of motor yacht Al Lusail. This yacht is owned by the Emir of Qatar. He has quite the car collection, it turns out, as well. As you can see in this video that was posted by Monte Carlo Marine. I think it may have been for New Year's Eve celebrations, but I'm not sure, can't confirm that. I just wanted to show you this because I just thought it was so cool. All those supercars there, including a 918 Spider, which is a Porsche, by the way, if you don't know. My favorite car of all time, I think. Anyway, we'll move on. Just wanted to show you, just any excuse to show you a load of supercars. All right, so we'll move on to motor yacht Octopus. We mentioned in the last video that Octopus had spent New Year's Eve down in the Antarctic. Well, she's still down there right now, and she is the world's largest charter yacht, and she's on charter right now down there, and she is continuing that tour, and she's currently sailing on the southern coast of Brabant Island, which is the part of the British Antarctic Territory. And it's 59 kilometers long, the island, and it rises up to 2,500 meters. I've actually photographs from when I sailed the same area on a cruise ship in 2008. It was it's quite the trip. It was one of those places that I always wanted to go, but now that I've been, not really any interest in going back. It's not one of those places that I really want to revisit. I mean, it's great when you're there, but getting there and getting back is the rough part, as I mentioned in other videos. I'll show you some of the photographs here that I took when I was in that area. And you can see where we were going through areas where there was a lot of ice in the water. And there's nothing quite like hearing the sound of ice banging off the hull of your vessel. It's quite an unnatural sound, quite scary. Anyway, we'll move on. In a previous video, I showed you some photographs of motor yacht Vixit, which had run aground, and it had damaged the underneath of the vessel, and it ripped off the stabilizers and caused all kinds of damage to the hull of the yacht. Now we actually have the story, and it happened in March 2022. It actually happened in Loreto Bay National Park in Mexico. The area is protected by the National Commission of Protected Natural Areas. And when the vessel ran aground, it actually hit a coral reef. And they said that it actually damaged coral heads in the area. After the yacht ran aground, it was actually stuck there for almost 10 days. It actually happened on the 7th of March 2022. And the vessel wasn't actually moved until the 16th of March. So one of the things that they did was they offloaded 60,000 litres of fuel from the boat. They were worried about the potential leak hazard, that the fact that if there was any leak caused by the grounding, that the fuel could leak out into that area. But also another reason why they would have done that is to try to refloat this boat, because obviously it was stuck on this coral. So 15 guests were on board at the time of the accident. They were all removed from the vessel and put into hotels locally, as were some of the crew. However, a few crew remained on board to try and deal with the issues. The yacht was eventually refloated and towed to Puerto Escondido, which is not far away in Mexico. They checked the hull to make sure there was no damage, or no further damage, or no any leaks or anything like that. And that was the last known AIS broadcast from that location, which was about 7 months ago. And the vessel has since been transported to the shipyard and is undergoing repairs, which is what we saw in those photographs. Now, one of the things we were unable to do also is identify the owner. We did a broad search, as we always do, and we couldn't find any information that directed us to the owner. We just found a registered company, which is in Miami in Florida. So we're not sure who the owner is. If you have any idea, please get in touch and let us know. Okay, so we'll move on to the main story now. This story piqued our interest because of some of the details in the story. Now, this was about a yacht fire on a 20-meter yacht. Now, the brand, we believe, is called a Sege 57, and the yacht's name was Azimuth 3. Now, that's the name. It's not an Azimuth yacht, as far as we can tell. Now the vessel was heading on the 27th of December. The vessel was heading from San Fernando near Buenos Aires in Argentina, and it was heading to Punta del Este in Uruguay. And the vessel left at 0530 hours. Now, the captain of the boat, his name was Victor Silveira, and he was a yacht skipper for 40 years. He had 40 years experience at sea. He was 65 years old, and he was at the helm when the fire broke out. One of the things that we do when we work on yachts is we do a lot of training for yacht fires, and this is the reason why we do so much training. And he said that everything happened in 3 minutes. So from everything being normal to a blazing yacht fire, as you can see in the videos here, he said it happened in 3 minutes, which is quite incredible. So, you know, that's why we do so much training. Now, obviously, this is a very small yacht. It won't have had that many things on board in terms of firefighting, not like the larger yachts. But anyway, he says he left San Fernando at 0530 hours, and they were on board. There was 2 crew and one passenger on board. At 0730 hours, he realized there was black smoke coming from the engine room, and shortly after that, he called a mayday and said that the engines had caught fire. He stopped the engines and offloaded one passenger. Now, the passenger was offloaded into another boat that was in the area. Whether they visibly saw the fire or they responded to the mayday call, but there were 2 boats in the area. They came to the rescue, and he offloaded the passenger into one boat. He stayed on board to fight that fire, try and see what he could do with the other crew member. He was on board for 10 to 15 minutes. Then he said that he realized that there was nothing he was going to be able to do. And you can see in the video here, you can see him on the flybridge there. And he eventually evacuated into the rescue boat, and then he was rescued by another boat. They took him on board his boat. Now, the 2 boats that were in the area, one of them was called Gracia, and the other one was called, we're not sure if it was called Le Bleu or possibly Le Plus, but one of them we think was a sailing boat, as you can see from the photos, and one of them was a motorboat. Now, the search and rescue arrived, and they started to fight that fire, but unfortunately they weren't able to put it out, and the vessel eventually sank. Now, this happened in the Rio de la Plata in Argentina, which is near Buenos Aires. Now, the captain said that this was going to be his last trip. So he'd been at sea since he was 17 years old, 65 years old. He was on his last trip, and it ended with a big fire. So that is not a good way to go, is it? But if you want to look for the positives in that story, he survived with his life, and there were no injuries. It sounds like he did everything right, and got his passenger off and got his crew off. So that's the good ending to that story. But that is quite a story. The fact that he said it all started in 3 minutes, that shows you how quickly these things get out of hand. One last thing, be sure to check out our Patreon page. You can find it at patreon.com/esysman. You'll get to see exclusive videos not published on YouTube. You'll get to see early access to features advert-free, and you'll get to suggest topics for future videos and ask questions for upcoming Q&As. Now, if you've got any information about any of these stories here today or any other stories, please be sure to get in touch. You can get through to us from the About page of the YouTube channel. You can get us on Instagram, on Facebook Messenger, and you can also get us on Threema. Be sure to like this video, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell for future notifications. All right, guys, thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch up with you soon. Bye-bye.